Why shouldn't we keep changing it for every organization and group that comes along? We have to have standards and principles in our society, or we have no society. And we can still be fair to people. I have no problem with gay people having some kind of association, legally even, being able to visit each other in the hospitals and share property. I don't have any problem with that at all. But it doesn't have to be called marriage. Something that was sacred, that was established by God above. So why should we now let people come along and change it into something that's different? We can learn how to be fair, we can learn how to be just, but that does not include changing the laws of nature and the laws of God. And we have to be able to stand up for what we believe. Well, at any rate, you know, there were a lot of problems with me reaching my goal of becoming a physician. Not the least of which was the fact that my parents got divorced early on, and that was devastating for me. My mother was one of 24 children, got married at age 13. She and my father moved from Chattanooga to Detroit, where he was a factory worker. Some years later, she discovered he was a bigamist, had another family. And I remember telling that story at a graduation at the University of Utah. Nobody thought it was that strange. I told you I wasn't politically correct. Of course, they don't do that in Utah anymore, right? But at any rate, you know, that resulted in a divorce. We ended up moving to Boston to live with her older sister and brother-in-law. Typical tenement, large multi-family dwelling. Boarded up windows and doors, sirens, gangs. First time I saw one of those water rats, I thought it was a dog. The thing was so big. And the roaches, the things were so big and aggressive. You know, in the more upscale areas, they call them water bugs, but we knew what they were. And these things, not only would they crawl on your table, they would crawl in your cereal box. Yeah, so if you were eating Raisin Bran, you had to know what those brown things were. Probably shouldn't say that since I sit on the Kellogg board now. But you know, the violence. I remember seeing people lying on the ground with bullet holes and stab wounds. Both of my older cousins who we adored were killed. And I remember as a 9-year-old sitting on the ghetto stairs, looking through the building across the street, out of which all the windows had been broken, the sun was streaming, there was a sunbeam, and it made me think of my future. And I remember thinking it was unlikely that I would live to be more than 25 years of age, because that's what I saw around me. In the meantime, my mother was out working as a domestic, leaving at 5 in the morning, getting back after midnight, day after day, because she didn't want to be on welfare. And no matter how difficult her life was, she never became a victim. She never felt sorry for herself. And that was a good thing. The problem is she never felt sorry for us either. So there was never any excuse that we could come up with that was adequate. She would say, "Do you have a brain?" If the answer to that was yes, then you could have thought your way out of it. And if we ever came up with an excuse, it was that point, yourself to blame. We were in Missouri on Saturday, Candy and I, and there was a group of youngsters, and they all had on t-shirts with the poem printed on it, yourself to blame, and they came up and recited the poem. It was actually wonderful to know that we have young people growing up to be responsible, because that's what we need once again. Instead of somebody who can find somebody to blame for everything, take responsibility and do something about it. It will make a